I am Jeff Ado. This is Lunacy, where we discern the sacred from the insane and admit that whether we like it or not, we are all profoundly affected by the cycles of the moon. How?
Oh!
Nice.
I love howling.
Good howl. I'm impressed. Some people howl that very off key. You know what I mean? It's bad. It sounds like just a really shitty dog. You know, but your howl was very authentic. Great. So my guest today is Isis Indriya. She is a ancient Egyptian expert. She's a ritualist. She is a teacher of ancient Egyptian cosmology. She's a really brilliant human being. And she lives up here, and it's funny because this is our first like real meeting, but I feel like I've known you for a very long time. And you're already friends with so many people that I really love and respect, people who've been on this program, etc. And so it's just I'm really honored that you accepted my invitation. And I'm excited about what we're going to talk about. All right, which is Egypt. We're going to talk about Egypt. So I think, like the first thing I'm curious about is how did you get into Egypt? How did that become a topic of interest for you, or what called you to study ancient Egyptian tradition and religion and like that?
I feel like so much of my path really began when my mom died. My mom died when I was around 4.5. And I went through a pretty long, deep, unconscious sadness for most of my childhood into middle school, into high school. And being that she died at such a young age, my desire to commune with her on the other side, I feel like is what led me to Egypt, to Kemet.
Wow.
Yeah, because I wanted to be with her. Pretty much. And, actually, she was the first, but it's been a consistent part of my life is having a relationship with those that I love moving forward and transitioning. It just seems to be part of my life. And so through the studies of ancient Egypt, I went there when I was around 19. I was studying transpersonal psychology and stargates and ascended master stuff and Reiki. And my teacher was following her teacher to Egypt, to Kemet, and so I followed her. And my path there, it was definitely a 3-week initiation journey, and I didn't really know much about it.
Yeah.
And then from there, I started studying.
Okay. That was like you were hooked. That's interesting. My sister went to the Institute for Transpersonal Psychology.
Oh.
Faith.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I guess. Anyway, but that's cool. Go you two, I say. That's really cool. That's fascinating. So, and you say that you had a desire from when you were a young girl to really like connect with your mom. And I imagine you probably just did like a lot of praying to her and sort of like looking for signs and that kind of thing. And then going back to that. So then when you were 19, you went on this journey, this trip to go study in Egypt. And then did that like sort of open up some of your connection with her, or your sense of like your ancestral connection to your mom?
I mean, I didn't realize at the time that that's why I was going there. I was just following my teacher, who was following her teacher. And then going there, the series of experiences and initiations that occurred helped me realize that there's far more going on in the unseen than I'm aware of. And so I started studying a lot of the unseen forces and finding my way into the older mystery school tradition pathways. I started attracting and magnetizing a lot of teachers and really felt like there was something to the mystery teachings that I just felt like it was my path, and it led me to all different kinds of things. But it really began when this oracle crystal ball came into my life called the Oracle.
Okay.
And that crystal ball in 2001 really magnetized so much of the pathways of learning, the different teachers around these ways in ancient Egypt towards me. And so I like to say, and this goes with lunacy, that I'm I'm basically a student to the crystal ball, and whatever magnetizes towards the crystal ball is ultimately what I'm serving and learning. And there's a very lunar quality to it. Who's to say what's sane in an insane world, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. You're a very good guest for this program.
When I found out it was lunacy, I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah. You're a lunatic.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Pretty much.
Good. Well, obviously, I am as well. Good times. Good times. Yeah, there we go. That's great. So, the crystal ball thing, I mean, that's funny to me. It sounds funny. I've actually seen the crystal ball because I've been to your space because we do our men's group in that same space. So I've seen your crystal ball, and it is really something to behold. But naturally, you know, when I hear crystal ball, and I think when most people think of, oh, she's got a crystal ball, you know, it's like a fortune telling kind of a thing, and like I think ancient, you know, like 1900s carnival kind of thing. But that's not really what it is at all. Could you tell us a little bit more about this object and kind of how it came to you and how it does influence you?
Yeah. Well, I love to feel into crystals and stones as, you know, living beings that have lived here a lot longer than we have, or at least longer than I have.
Yeah.
And so there's a awareness and of this emerald earth, of this place that these mineral beings carry that I don't understand. I'm learning from. You know, this particular crystal ball came from Brazil, and in 2001, I was studying Joseph Campbell and eating a lot of mushrooms, and
like one does,
and like really, and Shakespeare, jazz, mushrooms, and Joseph Campbell was my thing.
That sounds fun.
It was a really great mix, and I was seeing all of these little beings everywhere, and that's partly why I kept engaging with this medicine, was because I kept seeing all these beings, and so I started throwing events to honor them, called Sealy Court. You know, when all of the different members of the Fae or the interdimensional beings come together of this world to dance, and a human enters, they disappear for 100 years. So I was doing these events once a month or once every couple of months with my friend Ed, and they just grew really quickly. And we would honor a different member of the Fae tribe, basically. I even wrote like a college paper on it because I was so into it. And then simultaneously, a dear friend of mine was doing events called Starseeds.
Okay.
And this man, we call him the Archangel Gabriel because his name is Gabriel, and he kind of just like flew in and flew out. He brought this crystal ball to us, and he said, I want the two of you to work together. And I'm handing you this crystal ball. So we're like, okay. And so we started working together, and we started learning how to listen, study, and commune. Some refer to it as scrying with the crystal ball. And we would work with different plants, or work with meditation, or work with just gazing upon the crystal ball, and we'd receive information and instructions, and then we would create from that place. And this was about a 10-year journey. We called it the Oracle Gatherings.
Okay. Wow.
And King's Chamber was one of our events. So Egypt was a big part of that. So there's a little blip in that moment in time.
Yeah, that sounds insane.
It was
totally crazy. You're talking to crystal balls over there. I don't know.
Still am.
Check her into an institution, you guys. Although she seems very happy and normal, so who knows? That's really cool. Okay, so good. So you communed with this crystal ball, and it sort of guided you in different ways, and you learned from it, and it also guided you more towards Egypt.
Yeah, I kind of see it as a not only, you know, a crystal ball to gaze within and engage with the different dimensions of consciousness, but I also see it as a magnet and a computer. So it attracts, magnetizes whatever I'm here to learn and serve and tend to. And over time, it's consistently been Egypt, been Kemet. And I went in the first event that we did in Egypt. I'm a part of the Do Lab, which is this organization out of Los Angeles. And we did an event in 2012. I had been a few times before that. Like I had been on my journey studying Egypt throughout since I started. But we did a big event in honor of 2012 where all of these events were happening all over the world to light up the sacred sites, basically. And we were representing Egypt. We did it was like 350 people event at the base of the pyramids. And then we did 111 journey through the Nile and through all the temples. And that's when my path began, stewarding journeys to Kemet, to Egypt. And I've been doing it since.
Wow. That's really great. That's really cool. Yeah, I've personally been really fascinated with Egypt. I went there when I was a kid, actually. My grandma, they had lived all over the world. My grandfather worked for USAID, which is an aid organization. He's a civil engineer. And so they traveled all over the place. They lived in Nepal and Vietnam and, all over the place, Thailand. So she basically told all of us, you can go, wherever you want, and I'll take you as your like inheritance, And so I said, well, I want to go to Colombia because the movie Romancing the Stone had come out. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Kathleen Turner
Yep.
and Michael Douglas. And she was like, no, we're not going to Colombia. Because it was like 1980s.
Yeah, totally.
Right? She was like, what about Egypt? And she gave me a book on the pyramids. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. So I got really obsessed. And we took a trip to Egypt. And I was enthralled. I mean, there were a few things about it. One, it was the first time I'd ever been in an impoverished country. I'm not going to say third world because I think that's ridiculous. There's one world. And it was the first time I had seen that level of poverty. And so that was like really challenging for me to digest because I'm a very empathic person. Even then, as a 13-year-old kid. But then and also that like the juxtaposition between that level of poverty and the unbelievably brilliant, beautiful majesty that is Egypt and all these ancient sites, like was really, kind of a hard thing to hold, but also really amazing and magical. And, we went to the Temple of Karnak and all over the place. We went to the pyramids, obviously, and we went down the Nile and had a really, really incredible journey there. I remember we were in the Valley of the Kings, and my grandma was drinking a beer as Knights in White Satin was playing in the cafeteria, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go just walk around, and I stumbled into I was totally by myself. There was nobody around. I went like a block down some giant, tomb from some king that obviously had been completely pilfered, into this beautiful room that was like all hieroglyphed upside down. And, I don't need to tell you about it. All right. You know, but I had this like really incredibly intense connection and beautiful experience there that I couldn't really explain at the time. Of just like connection, like I've been here before kind of a thing, at least in my mind. And so I've also had like a kind of a fascination with Egypt myself. So I feel like it makes sense that we're talking about this. You know what I mean?
When at 13, what an incredible opportunity to be immersed in a tomb too, by yourself.
Yeah.
At 13.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that sort of speaks to kind of part of what I want to talk to you about. It is like, obviously you're very steeped in the knowledge and you continue to refine and gain more knowledge and then spread that knowledge to other people. That's part of your mission. And of course, I definitely want you to talk about that because I'm sure people would like to learn more. And I know you have a bunch of different programs, which I personally have friends that have done that absolutely rave about what they've gotten out of it. And, I part of the reason why Lunacy, why this podcast is, I feel very strongly that we live in a severely diseased culture and that we're very much out of balance with the earth and with each other and with ourselves and like unseen forces that we don't recognize and don't want to talk about, et cetera, and don't want to dig deeper into. And so there is a rising movement that is in answer to that. And there is a a hearkening back to ancient traditions and ancient ways of being and indigenous type perspectives. And, I'm just curious, like to ask you, what is it that you feel this ancient Egyptian knowledge that you have to offer, that you're learning about, can offer us in our ailing society?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I just am feeling what you shared and everything you're sharing. I just feel so connected to it. So thank you. I feel like the more we go backward and learn more about our origin stories, especially right now as everything is unveiling. Mm-hmm. It's like the more we learn there's more to learn. When we go further back into our origin stories, it wakes up these memories inside of us, these remembrances like you felt when you were 13 and you'd been there before. Mm-hmm. These memories, this memory palace is what we call it, wakes up inside of us. And I believe it helps us gain more access to our innate intelligences. Mm-hmm. There are, in one tradition that I love, there are 32 of them, mm-hmm. Multiple senses and multiple intelligences, and helps us wake up, turn on, activate, strengthen, support the evolutionary process of our DNA, which is, I feel like, what needs to happen right now.
Yeah.
And studying these ancient Egyptian ways, I like to acknowledge the older name Kemet, mm-hmm. Kemetic. The term alchemy comes from Kemet.
Okay. Kemet is essentially Egypt.
Yeah.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Egypt comes from an Egyptian and then Coptic translation, but the original name, as far as we know, but who knows, so much is uncovering as we speak. Right. Mahmoud always says, anywhere you dig in the sand here, I says, you will find something. It's just, there's just this real unveiling, real time that is consistently occurring there.
Mm-hmm. Mahmoud is one of your...
Yeah, he's one of my teachers. My son's grandpa, Egyptian grandpa.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Family. Uh-huh. He's who I study with. He's in a hieroglyphic. I would call him a master. He'd probably never call himself that, but... Mm-hmm. And the term Kemet I find to be very helpful because it's referencing Chem, the black fertile soil, which is where the term alchemy comes from, alchemy. And so the alchemical process of transformation and transmutation, and in some context transfiguration, but the art of transformation and transmutation in relationship to agriculture, personal journey, this time in our human story. Mm-hmm. We're going through a massive transformation.
Yeah, like it or not.
Mm-hmm. A lot is dying. Mm-hmm. And, but in Egypt, one thing I love about ancient Egypt and Kemet is that this reverence for the journey of death, and partly what drew me towards it, is that death, is an offering to the soil, or is an offering for more life to grow. And this cycle of life, death, rebirth, renewal, regeneration, revivification, resurrection. Mm-hmm. The fertility neter, also known as a god, but in their terminology be a neter, is Asar, also known as Osiris, which we are in the time of Asar, Osiris right now. He's a neter of agriculture and regeneration, regenerative culture. That like our transformational process in our bodies is the more we work with the soil and the land and commune with the transformation that happens in the soil and in land, we start to commune with the living life force of creation in relationship to cosmic outpourings of light that bring nourishment into the soil. They had this really sophisticated relationship with interdependence, like us as humans.
The Chem people.
Yeah, the ancient Egyptians. Us as humans, the living life force and living beings of the natural world. Okay. Like the standing ones, the trees. But not just the trees, but like the cedar beings and the redwood beings and the sycamore beings, the bees and all the different living beings here. And the Neteru, which are the cosmic divine qualities or spiritual energy of creation. Yeah. And they believe that all three together, the three realms, celestial, terrestrial, and us as humans, were equally decisive in shaping the future. We did it to shaping anything and everything. We did it together. The interdependence was all three of these realms. And I feel like this is something that we've forgotten, that we're remembering.
Yeah.
Not only what it is to be a part of the ecosystem that is like nourishing and feeding us, and that's how we're living, but also like cosmic awareness, you know, like we're in this moment now, which is really incredible, that astrology, Vedic and Western, is revered. People are studying and paying attention. If you think about it, you know, we're humans on this emerald earth, and the emerald earth is moving around the sun, Ra, with all these other celestial bodies, the lunacy, the moon. We only see one side of the moon, which is also just fascinating. Of all the celestial bodies, we only see one side of that one.
I don't know what's going on over there.
Me neither.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Captain Crunch is over there with weapons, I think. It might be the Death Star. They're just seeing if we figure it out.
Wow.
I don't know.
Exactly. We don't know. That's part of it. That's
the
part
alien-based thing. Who knows? But yeah, it is definitely interesting that we only see one side of the moon.
But the other celestial bodies are all moving.
Yeah.
And then we're all moving in relationship, in this elegant motion around the sun, moving forward in space, in this like grand cosmos.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, how come we're not noticing all of these three dynamics happening together? You know, like some say that we've traveled further in space than we have in the middle of the earth. Like, well, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, what is happening? What is, you know, where I'm from Guam. Our people were Chamorro people. Our island is one of the tallest mountains in the world, but it's underwater because it's on the Marianas Trench.
Okay.
7 miles deep. I think only 2 people have made it to the 7 miles deep.
Yeah. Wow.
And so the ancient Egyptians, they like studied the cosmos, the earth, and the body to see the interdependent relationships and the mapping systems that were very similar.
Yeah.
Like our insides were, you know, millions of interdependent living beings in the body, so we can be a spirit and a body. They're working for us when we're sleeping.
Right.
We don't even know how much is working for us to be a spirit and a body.
Yeah.
And that they believe that interior temple was reflective of the cosmos and then reflective of the earth. And how to create and live heaven on earth was to study the heavenly realms and map them in the architecture on the land, and then do ritual and theurgy to tend to all the relationships. And that was our job, to tend to the relationships so we could consciously create together. One of my elders says, you know, there's far more beings in the unseen realm than there are in this one.
Yeah. And I mean, I personally firmly believe that. And I think, to your point, you know, the idea that there's not something else going on, you know, and that we shouldn't be looking up to the stars and like looking into the earth and acknowledging the different beings. Like, it's just ridiculous. You know, I feel like for a very long time, we were stuck in empire and domination and dominion and male dominated, you know, culture, which I don't like. I'm not trying to demonize that. I just think we got lost. You know, I feel like we got lost. Certain people found ways that they could dominate other people and make a lot of money, and then like greed became more important than connection. And here we are, you know. But the idea that there's not something more going on is just so preposterous to me. It just doesn't make any sense. And particularly if you look at, you know, Egypt and what they had going on back then, and even just the level of technology that they had. You know, they were doing eye surgery, and I mean, we saw, when I was there, we saw all the different elements that they were using, and there was just far more going on, and far more reverence for the earth, etc. I know, you know, I think, you know, you mentioned mushrooms and entheogens is something that I also work with. You know, we just did a ayahuasca retreat, and you know, in those, in those spaces, you meet a lot of different beings, and they are undeniably there. Now you could say Jeff, that's your imagination. Maybe it is my imagination. Maybe I'm just making it all up. Maybe this whole thing is made up. Maybe you're made up, Isis. Maybe it's just all a bunch of bullshit. I don't know, but I don't think so. And that doesn't feel right to me. What feels right to me is to acknowledge the beings that are in this world that are in that context, in those ceremonial contexts. Typically those beings are coming to help heal and to connect and to motivate and to demonstrate things. Sometimes beings come in that environment that are unwanted or misqualified or like trying to stir things up and not fun, right? People have bad experiences or bad trips like that. But for the most part, those energies are really very much healing and very much, very much connected to who I am and who we are as people who are working on praying, and being in prayer. So I think, what you're describing, and it sounds like what you're teaching, is really hearkening back to deepening and resurrecting that connection, with the great mystery.
Yeah.
And really exploring it in a way that gives people greater access to what that is, that great mystery, and an ability to honor it in a way that is meaningful to our life's purpose.
Absolutely. I mean, and you were sharing about imagination, and imagination is deeply revered in these ancient ways too. I like to break it down to like, I Magi-nation, I'm a magician of this nation.
Oh, yeah.
And just the power and the importance of what we're receiving in a clear container.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of the older, studies, ritual theurgy tradition of ancient Egypt in certain schools of thought, they really believe that when the rays of the sun came forward to help life grow, also often referred to as the Aten, the sun, light information, transmissions, instructions, it was like an outpouring of the celestial body, or the outpouring of the principle. Modern day terms, they say God or goddess, but in the older ways they said neter, or neteru. It's like an outpouring of information. Same thing with the moon, the lunar light or the stellar light. That it was an outpouring of the principles of creation to support us, guide us, instruct us, create with us. And that us as humans, or even like our tools that we work with, like this microphone or this crystal here, when the outpouring of the information or the principle of the neter, or the god or the goddess, comes into this location, it can materialize in us as temples, as a divine house, a temple, or in an implement or an instrument, so it can then empower, come alive, and create with us. So there's this really this process of learning how to be a vessel and a vehicle. Like clear the vessel. Purification was like, I always say this, 5 minutes ago or 10,000 years ago. It's like purify, to then become an empty vessel, to be an instrument for these unseen, benevolent, life-serving forces, life-giving forces.
Yeah, good distinction.
Yes, very important. to play us and work with us and have a vehicle to move about. And then this resurrected our divine nature. Like we were made of both the soil of the earth, this earth, and the stars.
Yeah.
And so then being a divine house or a temple, a home, for these to create together, then we become a pillar for heavenly principles and consciousness in this earth. We become the antenna going back and forth.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I definitely connect to that so much. I meditate a lot, and when I started meditating was with this man, beautiful teacher, Father Ren, and that was one of the things he taught us, was like, okay, when you meditate, you're just an antenna, and you're just accepting what's coming into your field, and you're really trying to just clear out and clean out. And meditation is such a means of like emptying out all the just nonsense, all the thoughts, and just letting them go past, letting the clouds break, and creating a barrier so that I can see my observer. And I think to your point, to the what comes to me when you talk about purification of the vessel and really, creating space. I'm an actor. And so like so much of being an actor is like making sure that I am complete with myself so that I can accept the character, accept the word, so that I can embody the character without any semblance of who I am or my identity or my issues or my things. You know what I mean? So I can really pour myself into the character. The same thing with music, for sure. I mean, undoubtedly, I'm a singer and a songwriter, and so much of singing is emptying out the vessel, doing less, relaxing even more. The more that I relax, the better my voice sounds. And as far as melodies and words are concerned, like just allowing them to be, just allowing that creative force to flow through me without trying to grab onto it and force it. That's where I think we get lost so much. And so I feel like that's what you're saying definitely resonates with me on that level. But it's also like what you're saying is, hey, let's accept that there is divinity in our creation. Yeah. That you and I are somehow created in some image of God or creator. And that, we're here for a higher purpose. I mean,
100%. The fact that we're a spirit in a body, and I mean, I am just in awe of how my body is very helpful doing things so that I can be alive inside of it. Yeah. And like be conscious. I mean, it's like when we look inside, we're like, wow, there is a lot going on in there. Yeah. And how were we made? How were we made? I don't know if Darwinian's theory is necessarily Darwin theory. I don't know if that's really the process. And one of the things too.
No, we were definitely monkeys. Isis. Everybody knows.
I mean, I call monkeys. My son Monkey. I mean, he's a monkey for sure.
I have my cat is named Monkey, actually, too. Yeah, so go figure that one out, Darwin.
Right.
Cats definitely came from monkeys.
Well, in the water piece, the purification, I another piece that I love that I'm always learning about is that the modern day term of god and goddess in the ancient Egyptian in one lineage, they call it the Neter, the Neteru. It's not necessarily like male and female. Okay. Not like woman and man. It's more principles of creation, masculine, feminine, non-gendered qualities of creation, creating itself, permutations of creation. The original home place in one lineage tradition is that we all descend from the and the is the water. Yes. The electrical water current. And that we all come from the water. We're made of the water. Babies are raised inside the water in the womb, and then the water comes out, and then the babies come out generally. Water is life. We drink water. I mean, we could go on and on about water.
We could.
We really could.
And we should.
We will. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it is. With the water, the purification was to cleanse the vessel, clear the vessel, and to commune with the holy water spirit also. Right. And build a relationship with the holy water spirit and then also meet with the holy water in our body. Yeah. That's the library of the wisdom of the earth, because water doesn't leave, it changes form. Right. And so the whole wisdom of the ages embedded in the water. So they had this really like gorgeous, poetic, sophisticated relationship with purification on a variety of different levels, which is why, like we do, washing our hands, washing the dishes, taking a shower, drinking the water, we're always in communion with water. And they were really
not super grateful.
Not super grateful and very clear about what we're actually doing. And like how incredible it is that all of life is related to this water that we are in communion with regularly.
Yeah. It's totally taken for granted and filled with fluoride.
Yeah. And microplastics and all these things.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Yeah, and I mean, what 80% of our body is water, and
the earth, the body of the earth is mostly made of water. The cosmos, hydrogen and oxygen, primordial water spread out in space.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I have a couple of really serious questions about Egypt, which are, number one, where is the Stargate?
Well, there are many.
Oh, wow. I thought this was a joke question. You know what I mean? Going back to the movie and the TV show.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Okay, me too.
Yeah, for sure. But
no, really, where is there? Where are there
I
Stargates?
believe there are
Can
many.
we go there and
Yeah,
maybe on the show?
yeah.
Okay,
We totally can. I mean, it is incredible the way that the temples, not to mention that the Great Pyramid is 8-sided, just to start. It's the only 8-sided pyramid that we know of.
Chaos.
Yeah, and that it's 4-sided that we see, but then each side is slightly concave. It comes in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And the way they saw that was from a photograph above and the shadow that it cast.
Wow.
So, that in and of itself, being 2.5 million blocks, I mean, we could go on and on. There are a lot of people to listen to around the Great Pyramid. I mean, we could just talk about that for like 10 hours, period. Then there's the Sphinx.
It's going to be a long show, guys.
It's a long show.
Get ready.
Then there's the Sphinx.
Yeah. Which is, wow.
Incredible. And then there's all the other temples. The Nile. I just love the Nile. I just love the Nile. The two root systems of the Nile, the Blue Nile and the White Nile, Ethiopia and Uganda. They come in and they come together in Khartoum in Sudan, and then it travels north. And there used to be this expression of how when the water traveled north, that it would separate into 7 tributaries. I think it's maybe 4 or 5 now, but 7 tributaries. They called it the 7 Heterts or Hathors. And then when they would make a prayer to the water back then, and this is what I was told and studied, that they believed that it would travel up the water and would go to every body of water all over the earth. And then the Great Pyramid and some of these other temples, like Great Pyramid's considered to be a compass to a lot of other sacred sites, that when there would be some sort of initiatory experience, consciousness awakening that would happen there, it would ripple to the other sites too. So it wasn't like they were just making a prayer for themselves only, in their family, in their community, in relationship to the divine. It was also as to make an offering to the rest of the bodies of the water and the rest of the bodies of the earth. And that the temples along the Nile referenced specific embodiments of a particular neter or god or goddess. So when you went inside the temple, you were going into their circuitry system, their blood, their body, their embodiment. So you're inside the divine house of the neter.
Yeah.
And then the outpouring of the light, whether it was like the tracking of the star system Sirius, or tracking of the light of Pleiades, or the tracking of the light of the sun Ra, that where it would come in would bring information and perhaps instruction of what to do here and where to go home, and then also to travel.
Okay.
There was a traveling component in a variety of different ways.
Okay. And
in
so
different
can
places.
we do that? Can we go do it? Can we get on the train? How do we, can we do it?
Well, yeah, I mean, Karnak, where you talked about, let's just talk about Karnak for a moment.
Yeah, let's talk about Karnak, because for me, like, I don't remember everything about it, but I do remember there was this one room, and the light only shines in that one room one day of the year, and it shines exactly on the figure that's at the end of in the temple. And I think, do I have this right? Did they move it?
I think you're talking about.
Am I talking about a different place?
We'll keep going. Let's hear. Let me see.
There's one temple that we went to where that was the case, and then they moved it. They had to move it for some reason because there was a dam. And so now it happens 2 days later because they couldn't figure out how to get the angle right.
And there were 4. That's not Karnak, but there were 4 netters, and Ptah was one of them.
Okay.
And then you shine the light, and one of them didn't receive the light. Yeah. Karnak's different, though. They're all amazing. But what I love about Karnak that you spoke of Karnak is like Mahmoud, my teacher. He said this is the largest World Heritage Site in the world. Karnak alone, there's at least 20 different temples inside of it.
Yeah.
And it's the temple of Amun, which is the father of the gods, the father of the netters. And so there's all of these temples for specific netters or gods or goddesses inside of it. And then also, it's lined up with the row of the sphinxes to another temple, the temple of Mut, which at one point had, 365 Sekhmet statues, the cat netter, the cat goddess Sekhmet. And then at one point, there was a row of sphinxes that traveled across the Nile, because this is on the east bank, traveled across the Nile to the other side where the west bank is, where the Valley of the Kings are and the Valley of the Queens.
Okay.
Because they had a relationship with east and west. Going west was when the soul or the spirit was going home. It's where all the tombs are. Okay. Some temples are there. But in terms of portals and stargates, there is this one. I mean, there's multiple spots in Karnak, but there's one particularly that it's like a 7-layered gateway, and in as a relief in the wall, and you see kind of like this 7-layered thing. And every time I have sat in front of that place, I have traveled very far. Okay. And returned back again. And then even going to this one particular chapel there in Karnak, Sekhmet Chapel, this very precious place. There are 7 layers that you walk through to get to her, the altar of Ptah, and then to sit with her. Same thing.
And when you say you travel, like you feel like your soul is traveling, you're seeing different
definitely
things.
Interdimensionally traveling, like for sure.
And what are you seeing when you're traveling?
I mean, what are we not seeing?
Okay.
And then when you share about it, and then other people are seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
Then
that's
and then
really
it's like, okay. And then people are receiving similar information and instructions in the same timeless moment of like 30 minutes. It's worth paying attention to.
Yeah, definitely.
It's worth noting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the memories that appear, because we think about the Library of Alexandria and the story of that, and then even the story before that. One story is that when before the floods came, there was a group of beings that knew the floods were coming, and they went into different ways, where they went to canoes, they went to the middle of the earth, they went to ships to preserve the teachings. And then when the flood subsided, that they came back down and they came to bring the teachings forward and help to rebuild life in a variety of different ways. And one of the stories is that they went to the temple of Edfu, which is the temple of Heru Horus. And they started to bring all of the mystery teachings back, and priestesses started going to training and creating remembering this library of information of the mystery teachings. And some stories say that they then brought that to Alexandria. And
because there is a library in Alexandria.
Yeah, it did get burned, but they have revived it. It's another form of it.
Okay, right.
And I feel like that's essentially what's happening for us right now. We're opening up through our engagement, our interest, our curiosity with these master plant beings, with these sacred sites, with these looking into our origins, where we come from, looking at the other side of the moon.
Yeah.
Like, what is on the other side of the moon, to be like, something else is going on. And by our genuine interest, curiosity, and wonder and pull, it's also like this pull too. It's like a magnetic thing, like the moon. There's an influence there. Our like memory palaces are turning on. We are remembering so much. And the more we remember, the more we see into the perhaps colonization of the forgetting, the great forgetting. And the more we remember, the more we forgive, and we kind of clear all that away, and we commune deeper with the sacred. We care more, and then we tend more, and then we are part of the time of transformation and transition, rather than letting everything affect us. We become more of an influence.
Right.
And a ripple.
Yeah.
That is like life-giving on behalf of the future of all life.
Yeah.
We're like at that moment, the prophecies are talking about right now. I mean, I sit with a lot of different prophecy keepers, and there's just something about right now.
Yeah.
And the ancient Egyptians, I feel, are the more I learn, I can only speak for myself. The more I learn and engage and commune, it by nature, it's life-giving, and it strengthens my instrument, my vessel, turns on more intelligence, turns on more of my insides, so I can meet this time and be available to serve, essentially. That's all we're here doing anyways.
Right.
But to serve and be present and listen, because there's a lot of listening that we're learning how to do.
Yeah. A lot of listening, a lot of healing. Yeah. Yeah, that's really beautiful. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is all bullshit, actually, and that it's really just about Burger King and fast food and how much money we can make before we die. I think actually that's the truth.
And have fun with that.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm just like, but honestly, like I think about, because you and I are talking about very deep, esoteric study and like, really deepening the way that we commune with the source of life. And so much of the planet and our society is really just not about this. And also that I feel like that part of society really doesn't recognize how diseased and sick it really is. But you can see it in the levels of homelessness and addiction and poverty and et cetera, just people being lost and abuse. And, I think, what we're pointing to also is like, well, wait a minute. Hey, why don't we look at all of that and see that how out of balance we are so that we can really come back into balance. And even with the masculine and the feminine, it's not about raising the one above the other. It's about the fact that it's been out of balance for so long, and it's now time for us to just recognize, to use those two forces together and see the balance within ourselves and really manifest that into the world so that we can be of greater service to each other and the earth. It's just so, it's funny. We left LA a couple of years ago to come up here to be closer to nature and really, I think, to be around people like you, if I'm being totally honest about it. And I will. And so much of that was really about coming to a place that is steeped in, or it is committed to living much more in harmony with nature, Yeah. I mean, you can't throw a rock without hitting a Gila up here. Am I right? There's just all kinds of shit going on. You know what I mean? Reiki and who knows, rolfing and
it's true.
Acupuncture and Ayurvedic colleges and God
so
only knows.
True.
Sweat lodge ceremonies left and right. Ayahuasca, mushrooms, you name it. It's going on. Elixart, like there's just such a... there's a very focused and concentrated energy. Even the people that are not doing that, even, my neighbor across the street, she's got a beautiful garden, and she cultivates it. She really cares about it. So many people in this region are about that life, about reconnecting with the land and with agriculture and what we're about. And so I think, it's important to mention that, because I feel like we have this conversation. Obviously, that's why this podcast is to reach those people that are just like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and I just wish that I could, have greater purpose and like find something that's going to give me more greater satisfaction, and feel like it's more in line with my actual purpose. And I think that's part of what you're pointing to is like all these studies that you're doing, that you're also teaching people, which is also a great way of learning them.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's all about how to commune more deeply with the source that brought us here.
100%. And I love the feeling of a ripple. I just think about this with the name of your podcast here, and I love this quote too, Margaret Mead. I always share it because it just is always teaching me. Never underestimate that a small group of caring individuals can change the world. In fact, is the only thing that ever has. And so I feel like the more I devote to my path of healing and transformation and share that with others, that there's a ripple going into my bloodlines. There's a ripple going into my ancestry. There's a ripple in far beyond what I could ever see or know. I just want to focus on being really aware and tend to the kind of ripple I'm making. Not the need to see it, just the feeling that it's occurring.
Yeah.
And like the responsibility of it, you know, and care for that ripple.
Yeah.
And then and then to like feel trust in that on behalf of the living life force of creation embedded in humans and in the natural world. That like, the more we just even have these conversations or take this time together on this podcast, that whatever's shared here is sending a ripple in every person you commune with that is helpful. And, you know, part of it too is, you know, the prayer to be helpful and like just be helpful and beneficial and do something that is of service. That in and of itself is purposeful. You know, in whatever form that it is, you know, and the ancient Egyptians really believed that too. It's like everybody has a role. Everybody's like, role is important. And the interdependent remembrance of that is helpful. And that part of the purpose is to make something beautiful of every moment that we have. Yeah. And care. And then that helps us care about things and then actually tend to the earth and care about what we eat and care about what we put in our body and care about our relationships. Like the more we care, the more we care.
Yeah.
You
right.
know?
The more love that we spread. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think, you know, because so much of what we're coming out of, and I know for me anyway, my personal journey, you know, of transformation is, you know, about how do I be radically responsible for my life, period, in a story. You know, that's very much what Zen is about. That's very much Native American tradition, that wisdom. You know, they're not concerned about me and my ego.
Totally. They
consider, you know, their identity themselves as like a holy, like a really divine being. They don't question there's no self-esteem issues in ancient, you know, Lakota tradition. Because they honor who they are and the fact that they're even here. So much of it for me has also been the transition out of being a victim. You know, how do I stop being a reaction to everything that's happening to me, and how do I be a response? You know, how do I own my ripple? And for me, that's really critical because like so many of us are just wandering around like a pinball, you know, in a shitty pinball machine.
Yeah.
You know, and just reacting to everything constantly and trying to get more and operating from scarcity and fear and like succumbing to the fear and hiding in plain sight and lying and cheating and doing all kinds of gnarly things. I mean, that's so much of our society is indoctrinated with that greed-based model. And, you know, what you're pointing to, I think the reason that we're having this conversation is to help ourselves to leave the victim trap, and also to help other people leave the victim trap, to really recognize, no, I am the source. You know, you are the source listening to this. You have sovereignty here. And all you need but do is claim that sovereignty and see that you are the source, and stop blaming everybody else for what's going on with you, you know, and really like look at, oh wait, why? What does this have to teach me? You know, what do I have to learn? How's that going to help me to be a better man, better woman, better person, you know?
And what we allow to influence us, you know, with the name Lunacy, like what kind of influence are we making, and what do we allow to influence us that influences what we're making? Yeah. That is so helpful to engage upon internally. One of the things too that the oracle said to me was the crystal ball said through me, not to me, through me, both, said the consciousness of offering is the antidote to the extractive mind. The consciousness of offering is the antidote to the extractive mind.
Wow, that's beautiful. I see. So the extractive mind is that mind that is constantly trying to extract things and grab things. Literally, that's the greedy mind.
Yeah.
And did you say the action of offering?
The consciousness of offering.
Consciousness of offering. Like consciously offering.
Yeah, like the ancient Egyptians in one lineage really revered being an instrument of offering. Yeah. Like offering was a big part of one period of ancient Egypt, not all of it obviously, but one period where we're becoming, our life is an offering.
Right.
And then everything we're doing is an offering. Mm-hmm. And that shift, it's subtle and big.
It's huge, yeah.
It's huge. And then it's because the English language, it's so easy to be programmed by it to continue to extract. It's like it has this like way of taking, and so the decolonizing the language itself, how we talk or how we talk to each other, shifts how we are and what we do.
Yeah.
A lot of it's like what you're sharing that I really, feel in myself and in my relationships is like how to, the process of purification in itself, but like how to be more responsible for even being a spirit and a body. Because that's the thing, like how could we be unworthy? We are literally a spirit and a body.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
You are by definition worthy. by your very existence.
Yes.
You wouldn't be here if you weren't worthy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the rest of that's all programs that aren't ours. It is not our nature.
Right.
To be victims, to feel unworthy. That is not our nature.
Right.
And the competition's not our nature. Mm-hmm. We're collaborators.
Yeah.
That's our nature. And so it's almost just like, excuse me, thank you. Our work is done here, like over and over and over again. Like doubt or fear, or uncertainty or unworthiness or any of those things is like, now not bypassing obviously the healing journey, and give thanks for all of the healing modalities that are now growing and flourishing in our worlds. Thank God. Thank creation for God. That. Mm-hmm. Like our true nature is benevolent and collaborative. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're just returning to it.
Exactly.
Remembering it.
Yeah. Yeah. Remembering. The great remembrance. Beautiful. My wife told me to ask you about this. I'm holding in my hand, what do you call this?
What does she call it? I
don't know. She doesn't call it. Well, it's a Star of David, right? But it's really, it's an actual star. It's not a 2-dimensional. This is a 3-dimensional thing, object that I'm holding in my hand. Mm-hmm. And she mentioned that you had something beautiful to say about it.
Well, I love this geometry, the symbol so much. There's so much to share about it, and what feels really relevant right now in relationship to our convo with ancient Egypt is the union of from what is above and that which is below coming into harmony.
Yeah.
The heavenly celestial bodies, the terrestrial realm, the fire and the water coming together in perfect harmony to be a vehicle for things to move.
Yeah.
And travel.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I once had a vision of this a long time ago, actually, of these two pyramids meeting in midair and just like
nice,
just like crushing into each other, and then like creating this star around.
That's a great vision.
Sphere around. Yeah, I feel like that's what the Earth is, maybe. Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Well, in the Emerald Tablet, that which is above is that which is below, and when the heavenly realm and the earthly realm coming together, the earth is a model or a house for all of the heavens. Mm-hmm. And everything in the earth is a record of the heavens.
Yeah.
They like go back and forth, and everything in the earth is the materialization of these transmissions coming into form. So the hexagram is, or the Star of David, it's beautiful representation of that.
Yeah. Awesome. I like it. Okay. So super important question. What do you do when you're attacked by a mummy?
When I'm attacked by I commune with the soul that's on the journey through
Okay.
the duat to make its way home to the celestial body and support them doing that.
Okay. But I mean,
Well, because the
you're not
mummy.
gonna buy into it. Yeah,
Well,
okay,
well, no,
okay.
because
Don't buy
the
into
mummy
it.
thing is like, that's the thing. The two main things that most people think about when they think about Kemet, Egypt, the Great Pyramid and the mummy.
Yeah.
The story of the mummy, incredible.
Yeah. It is actually incredible.
It is amazing. It's a story of like a cocoon,
Yeah.
a chrysalis, like the imaginal cells in a butterfly, which is what we're in. So we don't, when a mummy's attacking us, we don't attack it back. We like recognize that this is reflecting a part of our transformation that we're undertaking right now.
Okay. And how many mummies have attacked you?
Well, actually, my roommate, she was dressed as a mummy a couple of years ago.
Okay. Okay.
So she might be the only one.
She's the only one. Okay. Thanks for playing along. Great. So we're running out of time here. But I do want to ask you something I ask all my guests, which is, for you, Isis, what is sacred and what is insane?
I mean, the first thing I said in here is what's to say what's sane or insane in this world.
Yeah.
Sacred is to me, the sacred is an experience, employing our senses to experience a living life force of creation.
Beautiful.
The choice to not experience that, to me, would be in the department of insane, from a more uncomfortable, feeling.
Yeah.
But sometimes the journey of insanity helps us employ our senses to experience the sacred. So it's kind of...
That's true. That's a good point. Sometimes you have to get a little crazy to get a little sacred.
I mean, I'm sure some of us in our journeys with different plants and medicines, we've hit this point where we're like, am I going insane?
Yeah.
And then I am. And then it was like, then everything opens. It's wild.
Yeah.
They go back and forth.
Okay. Great answer. That's a really good answer. So how do people connect with you? How do they, I know you're offering different courses along the way, and where do people connect with Isis?
AcademyofOracleArts.com
Okay.
is our school, the School of the Oracle. It's the School of the Oracle Crystal Ball. It's her school. So I just work there.
Okay.
And
Nice.
then my Instagram is another way, Isis _Indriya, INDRIYA.
Okay, great. And is there any courses that you're offering right now that people might be interested in, or?
Well, we started our Oracle Arts Apprenticeship. We do have, though, coming up, Intro to Ritual Theater.
Okay.
Ritual theater is...
Totally sounds like my bag.
You would love it.
I'm into it.
Because becoming a vessel and an instrument for the archetypes, it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so deep. It's
theater.
it's the history of theater.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
ritual theater. So we have that coming up, actually.
Oh, that's great. Okay, cool. Amazing. That's beautiful. Okay, cool. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to communicate to people that might be valuable for them regarding ancient Egypt, regarding this line of studying ourselves and our connection to the earth?
I just love the feeling of being an instrument of offering, like the consciousness of offering, and in that feeling, I love the natural feeling of communion that occurs.
Yeah.
Through that, because it's less about. I remember I was studying with this one Swami in India, and we were at the banks of where the three rivers meet to form the Ganga, the invisible river, and the other two. And we were doing our fire ceremony there, and he said, in the Western world, we're always getting and forgetting. We're just always getting and forgetting. He's like, here at the fire, we just give and forgive, and we keep giving and forgiving. And I'll never forget that, because the transformational process I was experiencing by making offerings to this day still actually teaches me and guides me. And so I'm less about, it's not like a takeaway.
Right.
It's like more of like a giving, and by nature coming back into the flow of reciprocity where I start to receive in new ways.
Beautiful.
So I just want to share that. And the other thing I want to share is, just want to say thank you for inviting me here. And I really love this conversation. I love the name of your podcast. I feel like it's really important.
Thanks.
And I just want to extend my gratitude and appreciation to you and to everyone that listens to this.
That's great. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I can speak for them. You know what I mean? All 4 of you. Just kidding. Also, I the offering thing, just something I meant to mention when we were talking about it a couple minutes ago is like, consider that we are making an offering of our lives all the time anyway.
Yeah.
It just might be a really crappy offering. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I look, I'm speaking for myself. All right. I've had moments where I was like, God, what am I doing?
Yes.
What a crappy offering.
Yeah.
But there's something really powerful in recognizing, hey, no matter what I'm doing, I am an offering. And so how am I giving my offering? Am I giving my offering from fear and scarcity and lack and greed and all of the trappings of our modern society that really ultimately are meaningless and don't get us anywhere? Or am I giving my offering consciously? Am I really caring about what it is that I'm giving in this life, the way that I communicate, the way that I am, how I'm being, am I owning my power in that offering? Am I really seeing how powerful I am to give the offering that I have to give? Am I really following my dream, whatever your dream is, So I just really want to call people to look at that, to deepen for each of us what it is that we have to offer. And finally, I want to acknowledge you, Isis, for being just an incredible teacher. Like I know 4 of my favorite people have gone through work with you, and just rave about how much knowledge you have to offer and the level of grace and humility with which you offer it. And I just really want to honor you for making it your mission to serve all of us and this current and this flow and this planet and helping to turn the tide.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yay. We say Ankh Neteru. Ankh Neteru. Ankh Neteru. Ankh Neteru.
Ankh Neteru. Nice. All right. Love you guys. If you want to support this program, go to patreon.com/Lunacy podcast. Much love, everybody. See you next week.